Okay, welcome to the weekly share of the Zer Shimshon. And the first thing on the order is that we want to wish everybody a Mazel Tov, especially me. We had a Baruch Hashem, we're zoche to have a great grandson again, born into our family. It's Aryeh ben Esther Cyril Goodman, and Baruch Hashem, the baby was born this last week, and hopefully the birth will be next week. And we just want to thank the Rebbe Shalom for this wonderful schus that not many people have. Okay. And I wanted to do a short Zer Shimshon there, but I actually had this question, but I didn't have an answer. And here the Zer Shimshon miraculously comes up with an answer. He's amazing. The Pasuk says, Vayitin Lavan Rachel Bitay as Bilha Shivchasai La L'Shivcha. That he's medayik here, and Lavan gave to Rachel his daughter, the Bilhah, his Shivcha, his maidservant, La, to her as a maidservant. Now, why does it say this by Rachel, La, and by Leah it doesn't say La, the word La. Only it says L'Shivcha. So we have a Gemara in Ksubos, which I'm going to read to you. It's based on the Mishnah there that says, the Mishnah states that if she brought him to one maidservant, they got married, and she has one maidservant into the marriage, she does not need to grind wheat, bake, or wash clothes. Okay, the maidservant's going to do that. The Gemara infers from this statement that she must nevertheless perform other tasks. The Gemara asks, let the wife say to him, 1 second, I brought you a woman in my place, right? B'charikai, who can perform all the tasks I'm supposed to do. So why shouldn't I be exempt from everything? So the Gemara answers, this is not a valid argument, because the husband can say to her, this maidservant toils for me and for herself, like any other woman. But who will toil for you, my dear wife? It is necessary for the wife to do some work in order to cover some of her own expenses. So here's the same idea that he gave. He says, she's coming to be bother herself for me, lidida, for herself, before you. So mantarch, who's going to take care of you? So the same thing happened to the maidservant of Leah. She had to be bothering herself with Yaakov's business and also her own business. But Rachel's Shivcha Bila did not have to bother herself with Yaakov, because Leah's Shivcha was bothering herself with Yaakov. Rachel Haisa Yaakov. You brought in, Rachel could say to Yaakov, you brought in a woman in my stead. Mishomhachi Allah the Shivcha. That's where it says the word La to him, to her for a Shivcha. Shehi Haisa Patur La say Shom Malacha Mashen Kim B'Leah. She was exempt from any other work and that's why it doesn't say that by Leah. Okay, now there's a story here. I'm going to share with you a beautiful story. As a businessman, I have an occasion to leave the religious confines of Yerushalayim and Bnei Brak and travel to meetings with clients and partners in offices around Tel Aviv and elsewhere. These offices are filled with people who aren't necessarily religious. And it's my job to make sure that I always serve as a proud ambassador of the Torah community and make a Kiddush Hashem wherever I go. In one of those offices where I find myself on a regular basis, there's a religious secretary who had been married for 7 years, but is still waiting for a child. Since I happen to be a person of mature age with rabbinic demeanor, the CEO of the company, clearly not a religious person, asked me to bless her and give her an eitzah so she would be able to have children. Okay. Now, incidentally, this is a very Israeli thing to do. Anybody who knows about Israel knows everybody gives brachas. Such a thing would never happen in the States, where business is a business and one's private and public lives are meant to be kept separate. In Eretz Israel, on the other hand, everyone knows everyone else's business and they care enough to get involved. Hence, the CEO's request for a bracha for his employee. At first, I was taken aback and even a little apprehensive, though I may look like a Rav, I have a white beard, and wear a long jacket. I'm a businessman and not accustomed to giving blessings. And in my mind, the only reason to give someone a bracha is if the bracha has a chance of coming true, which I didn't think mine would. After some reflection, however, I remembered the segula of the Zera Shimshon. And I began telling the secretary how the Sefer and its history, the segula associated with the Sefer, how numerous people who had learned its Torah had been blessed with children, found shidduchim, or just plain seen success in their lives. Then I did something that was, for me, quite out of the ordinary. Tell your husband in my name, I said to her, that if he begins a seder for learning in Zera Shimshon, you will definitely see a Yeshua and the bracha in your lives. Like I said, I'm not a Rebbe, but I was never a person who gave brachas to people, but the words almost flew out of my mouth in their own volition. A year passed, and I had long forgotten about the incident in the Tel Aviv office. One day, my secretary emailed me to tell me that I had a meeting at the same office where I had been given the bracha and the eitzah. The moment I entered the firm, I was greeted by the head of the company with the warmest welcome I'd ever been given in any company ever. He was smiling from ear to ear, clearly filled with happiness and joy. And I was gratified at being the recipient of such a welcome, but I wasn't quite sure why I merited such royal treatment. Just then, as I stood there somewhat in shock, the boss spoke out about a loud voice, the kind of voice that fills every corner of the room. Do you remember? Do you remember? I was utterly befuddled by this point. I truly had at a loss to what I was going on. Honestly, I don't remember what we did together. That is causing you to treat me so royally. What do you mean? You were here a year ago, weren't you? Don't you recall that what you did when you visited for the last time around? When I couldn't remember what he was talking about, he reminded me of the tremendously effective piece of advice I'd given to the secretary the previous year. Advice that had led to a Yeshua. The moment the words emerged from his lips, I remembered the incident. I was filled with overwhelming joy for having merited, knowing how everything had turned out. While I thank you for your praise, I told the company CEO, I can't accept credit for something I didn't do. Everything that happened here is in the schus and the incredible Sefer Zera Shimshon, which our secretary's husband began learning after we talked. Clearly, they were blessed with a baby in the merit of the Zera Shimshon who had kept his word and helped bring about the Yeshua Gedolah for all concerned. May everybody have Yeshua's Gedolas and have Yeshua's V'nechamais and have a good Shabbos and a wonderful, wonderful week. Kol Tov.